Want to welcome everyone back to the Pete Quinones show. With everything that's happening, I had to have Ryan Dawson on. Hey, Ryan, what's happening?
How's it going, Pete? I feel
Good,
vindicated. Vindicated and passed over at the same time, I feel like.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit about that before we started, but let's just jump in with this. In what's come out since Massey is doing what he's doing, is there anything in there that surprised you that you didn't know that you're adding to your library of everything Epstein that you've been doing since 2007, which I assume means that anybody who's written on this since then has just basically mostly plagiarized you?
I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people have. That's because it was easy to do. I was banned on all social media, so they could just grab my stuff, put it on Twitter, and it looked like it was theirs. Because I can't get on and say anything, can't call anyone out. But a lot of people have been researching this, like Vanity Fair, Miami Herald. So people have been definitely on this case for a long time. The cops in Palm Beach, for example, Mike Reichner and stuff, they tried. I don't think they had the background on Les Wexner and that whole group the way I did. If anybody's seen NUMEC, this is not a network Epstein created. It's one he entered into. It already existed. It's been there since the Sunborn Institute. And it's just, I had a unique advantage of studying JFK, studying the theft of uranium, and getting and knowing Jewish organized crime inside and out, going back to like the 30s. And so when you see who's financing Jeffrey Epstein and their ties to Robert Maxwell and all that, I already knew all these characters, not just Gordon Thomas book said this way. I knew what the mega group was. I was first person to explain that to everyone, what mega donors are. And so I was able to hit the ground running with Wexner super early because other people don't know why he's so important. They're like, well, he's a rich guy and he gave him a house. And I hear all the trite stuff across society to back off. And like, the case doesn't rest on that. But you get this, what happens is, you get the same circles of sloganeering over and over again, and people repeating stuff they saw on Twitter as if they came up with it. And I'm like, these are not even your own words. I know everything you're about to say because these are not your thoughts. And I published the client list. 2019, I put it out on my third store because I've been canceled off the first two. I don't know. I don't know what else I could have done. I didn't have a Twitter until 2023. I wasn't allowed back on until post Elon. And that's the only thing I was allowed back on. Still canceled on everything else. And it's kind of bittersweet. It's like, well, I know all this stuff, but what am I supposed to do with it? Who is it supposed to go to the FBI, the police? I mean, the victims already did do that. And it didn't matter. And where am I supposed to go with it now? Like, people are reading the files and they're figuring out a bunch of stuff I already figured out. Like, if I could talk to Massey, I'd be like, here's all the people you need to subpoena. This is exactly what you need to do. And this is what you need to ask. But I don't have that access. So I'm just watching stuff go helter-skelter. I'm like, well, they figured out Leon Black and Les Wexner the other day. Like, all of us have known that forever. I don't know. They just figured out Tony Blair, I think, and people are freaking out. And some of them are freaking out too much because they don't understand how to read documents. They think every accusation is a fact because it's on a piece of paper. Like, man, a lot of people say some bullshit to the FBI and they still have to look at it. Like, I'm in the file 11 times, whatever. Kind of creepy that the feds are reading my emails, but okay. At least I'm clean, because if they had anything on me, they'd hit me with that. But that when you get an internal communication between two criminals in an email, that's pretty solid. This is from or to Jeffrey, and then whatever person he's talking to. But when you just have an accusation from whoever saying crazy stuff like they're eating babies on a boat or whatever, okay, and it's marked as normal, And what sucks about these files is they didn't show you the file, but like, okay, did you look at that? What was the conclusion? There's no chronology. It's just random files. Other thing people don't understand is a lot of these people went by their initials. So you can't just search someone's name and go, oh, they're in here this many times. Like they often refer to Tony Blair as TB, for example. And everyone knows who TB is because of the context. But unless you knew to look for that, you wouldn't know. And you'd just know Tony Blair is only in this many times. Like, no, he's in there more than that. But it's usually people talking about him, not him talking. That's just one example. But yeah, I'm watching people just lose it because they're, oh my God, why did they send all this sulfuric acid to the island? They must be getting rid of the bodies. I'm like, okay, let's do some math. He got 6 drums, 55 gallons each of sulfuric acid. One of those drums could dissolve one body if you're dissolving the bones in about a week. So you could get rid of 6 bodies in 1 week if you had 6 bodies and 6 drums. Or that could be for saltwater reverse osmosis, so you can have fresh water on an island that doesn't have any. And that's the exact standard order. I don't think they're down there drinking salt water.
Yeah, and there is proof that he had ordered that exact amount, like a scheduled 2 or 3 times before.
There's
so
also proof of the engineers setting it up and doing it. I mean, if you wanted to get rid of some bodies, you burn them, and it doesn't take a week. And you don't have to put them one at a time in an oven. You make a pit, you put them all in the pit, and you burn them all at once. You can get rid of a car with fire. To do it with sulfuric acid is just, when you're already on an island, you don't really have to do anything but sink it. And it takes about the same amount of time, about a week. Now the bones would be there much longer. So if you wanted to get rid of skeletons, fire is the best way. If you're worried about smoke, you just do it at night. There's a whole bunch of ways. But they weren't out there doing human sacrifices or eating poop or any of this crazy stuff they said. And I feel like I've debunked the Bush Clinton boat thing on a bunch of shows. So I'll do it real fast. I mean, there's no details. Like, what's the name of the boat? What port did it leave from? Where did it come back to? How did you escape? You witnessed all this stuff. How'd you get off the boat? When were Clinton and Bush in the same area at the same time on a boat together? And whose babies were they? And da-da-da-da. No details. There is a conspiracy website link in it, though. Like, this is just some lunatic. But everyone ran with it. Like, see, it's Moloch and Baal and all this Alex Jones stuff. And like, no, it's not. They raped kids. They committed enormous white collar crime. A little bit of blackmail. Blackmail was not the main. It wasn't blackmail most of the time. It was just a reward. This is how these people are. People in Wall Street fuck hookers. Epstein had them a bit young. But this is not out of the normal range of debauchery for hedgies. Guys with lots of money cheat and they buy a horse because they can. And that's Bear Stearns, that's Goldman Sachs, that's any of them. That's how these executives behave. A lot of their wives don't even care because they don't marry for love, they marry for money. Shocker. It shouldn't shock anybody.
I mean, it's safe to assume that some of these guys would get out of hand, and some of these girls would lose their lives, and they'd have to dispose of. I mean, that's not, if they're trafficking from Ukraine or something, no one's coming to look for them. So,
but organized crimes have professional ways to deal with that, and that's not ordering sulfuric acid, which leaves a really like glaring paper trail, like to order sulfuric acid to an island. Like, that's not.
Everybody thinks they're in a movie. Everybody like looks at stuff like that, and it's like, oh, I saw that in a movie, so it's real.
It's on Breaking Bad. They dissolved him in a drum. I'm like, dude, no organized crime syndicate's that stupid to do a public order on fucking acid to an island and have the engineers there. Said it really was for saltwater reverse osmosis. You have to have, same thing with beef jerky. Like, if you're on an island, you're not there all the time. and you need non-perishable food and stuff on there as you go. You can't just keep helicoptering to St. Thomas back and forth. Jerky's not a bad idea. It's like, it's just beef jerky. It's not human meat. It's not babies.
Well,
It's none of
well, why
that.
would they be sending it to a lab for testing?
I don't know if they were. I think some of these emails is like, you have all the Pizzagate people and all their rumors, and you have to see, like, is this a communication or is this an accusation? Because a lot of the accusations are just whatever. They said the same stuff about the Podestas and all. And it's like, you can that I don't think that's real. I don't think they were doing gene editing in a secret lab in New Mexico. It would still be there. You could have witnesses who, the girls live with them. It's just like the thing that they were calling a mosque, that blue and white striped building. It was just a music room. I talked to Virginia about it. She'd been in there. It's got a piano. Now we've seen pictures in there. There's a piano and a bath room, and there's like a ring of stuff in the deck, and it's nothing special. It's modeled after a bathhouse, not a mosque. But they're all like, that's a temple to Moloch, and that's where they do human sacrifices. It's a music room with a piano. It is. Well, I think people do use code, like, for illegal drugs, for trafficking. Like, you saw that when Epstein emails Elon Musk and says, I have some UN diplomats coming over. And Elon's so autistic, he didn't get it. He was like, well, that would be a waste of my time to fly to New York. I'm running 2 companies. He's like, do you think I'm retarded? It's all girls under 25 and cute. He had to really like spell it out for him. But then you can see, well, if he's saying UN diplomats, then where else are they talking about diplomats or things that seem, business-like, and it's all code for young girls. Peter Mandelson called them your guests in scare quotes. There's a million different things, and they all mean kids. Well, there is something you have to. Something shocking.
What it reminds,
there was something I found shocking in the file. This is like, I don't know why this didn't hit me before, but there was a huge scandal some years ago called the 1MBD scandal. It was the sovereign wealth fund out of Malaysia that got fleeced for billions of dollars. The money just went missing. Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest financial institutions in the world, had to pay out in total $5 billion to regulators and all for their role in money laundering. But Edmund de Rothschild Bank was one of the middlemen in this conduit of theft from a sovereign wealth fund, where like their oil revenue stuff, it had all been stolen, and they were buying properties in New York and LA. And this one guy named Joy Lo, he's a Malaysian middleman. He did some dumb stuff. He had Britney Spears pop out of his cake when he was 31 on his birthday. He had all these celebrities, Paris Hilton, Psy from Gangnam Style, all that, like these huge parties. Bought a jet, bought a yacht. The money was just disappearing, going everywhere. But the Rothschild, Ariana de Rothschild emails Epstein like in a panic, as if he's some kind of fixer to make this go away. And he did. They only had to pay a $25 million fine. Goldman Sachs, who has teams of lawyers, the best you can get, $5 billion they had to pay. How did Epstein get the minimal punishment? Like, how did he pull that off? And why did she think he could do that? Is he smarter than everyone at Goldman? Is he got, what does he have that they don't have? It's only one. He wasn't that bright. You can see him talking to Steve Bannon, and it's like they're flexing on high school knowledge. Not even like he thought Aristotle and Plato didn't write anything. He's not some super genius. Eric Weinstein, same. Steve Pinker said he was a moron, like just a con artist or a cutout is what Eric called him. I think Pinker called him just fake. It's what you listen to him talk, and it's just like just basic. What he had was leverage. because he is the front man, the fall guy, the face for this donor class. And that's the Steinhardts and Wexner and Bronfman and the same people that financed the NXIVM cult, which was on Richard Branson's island, by the way, at least one of their sex parties where they were pulling naked girls around on dog leashes and branding them right above their vagina with hot metal and paddling and spanking and humiliating and peeing on all that stuff. $100 million came from Bronfman's. Claire Bronfman got 81 months in prison sentence for her role. And it's weird. I mean, the Bronfmans, that's the head of the World Jewish Congress. That was the president of the United Jewish Appeals. You and I did a show on all these, AIPAC-like affiliate groups, right? That's them. And Charles Bronfman sold his house to Robert Miller, he raped hundreds of little Canadian girls, middle school kids too. Like, that was his thing. He had the same fetish as Mike Jeffries, the homosexual from Abercrombie and Finch that raped all those boys, with shaving all their body hair, like all of it, not just pubes, like arm hair, everything. He had to clean them up in a bathtub, and he raped all those girls for decades. Now he's finally going to prison. He's got Parkinson's, he says, whatever. His network's slowly unraveling. Roberto Poulet and these, a bunch of Quebec, French Canadian perverts. No news. Had like one day news. Same thing with Mike Jeffries. That was like one day news. That's Abercrombie and Fitch. That's a big deal. These are fucking billionaires. And they were drugging people. Liquid Viagra, they called it. Whatever that is. Forced muscle relaxers for, backdoor action. It was like one day news. Peter Nygaard, who had, scat fetish, shitting in mouths, all that. Raped or bought all those black girls in the Bahamas he was banging. Not even one day news. Billionaire in prison. Not a pedophile, just he did whoever. But still, it's rape and worse. And Prince Andrew hung out with him too. They all know each other. But what are the odds that the Bronfmans are financing the NXIVM cult? They sold a house to another serial pedophile, and they pumped money to Ehud Barak in tandem with Les Wexner and the rest of the mega group. All these guys know each other, and they all knew Epstein because Epstein was Wexner's front man. Most of them had frontmen. The Bronfmans screwed up because they used their own kids. And that's not even surprising because you see that a lot. In the 1MBD, I was just talking about, the guy used his stepson. He made a fake movie company and they were monitoring. Like, he doesn't care if they go to jail. It's his own son or stepson, whatever. This is how they operate. And it's at the highest levels. They had Bill Clinton. They had Tony Blair. They had Peter Mandelson. They had a whole bunch of people in the Labor Party. I just wrote an article on that. It's like, okay. And of course, several Israeli prime ministers and presidents. Herzog, Ehud Barak, Ehud Olmert, Moshe Katsav, Shimon Peres, like all the little psychopath, genocidal maniacs from Israel are on speed dial for Epstein.
Let's come back to Israel in a second. You mentioned NXIVM. Can you do a real quick breakdown of what NXIVM was?
So NXIVM was like supposed to be like some self-improvement Tony Robbins, like Anthony Robbins. I say, don't want to get him mixed up with Tommy. Anthony Robbins is cool. Not into kids or anything. But that it was a sex cult. And this guy, Keith Raniere, had brainwashed these people, or more or less just forced them where they couldn't leave. And these girls were just abused. It wasn't as widespread. It's only like 8 or 9 of them that were trapped, but that's horrible for those women, and they got it. When I say branded, I mean, like you brand a cow, like you take a hot poker and put your initials on it or whatever. That was done to human beings. And the fact that they used Richard Branson's private island, like how the fuck does he not know that? Of course he knew. and he's in the emails with Epstein doing PR advice. And this is something I found odd, like a little bit surprising, because most of it wasn't surprising, but ought to be. But you had Steve Bannon, Richard Branson, and Noam Chomsky giving PR advice to Jeffrey Epstein. Could you think of three people more different than Steve Bannon and Chomsky? And then Richard Branson,
So weird,
who's just a
man.
hedonist. They're all weird.
So odd.
Yeah, but they're all like buddies with Epstein and saying, oh, we can do this. And a little tell in Branson's email where he says, we can get Bill Gates to say, blah, blah, blah. I was 17-and-a-half-year-old, da, 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 da. Because Bill Gates is seen as like, he used to be a respected guy, richest dude in the world. He's helping people with the vaccines. That all didn't age well. But what do you mean you're going to get Bill to say it? He should only say it because it's true. Of course, it wasn't true. Epstein was not arrested for 17 and 10 months, as Dershowitz said. They were 14. There was like 30 of them. You can see that file. I mean, they got the sweetheart deal, but so what? You can still read the file and see the victims are 14 years old and cried and told the police. That investigation started in 2005. A whole year goes by before Donald Trump gets on the phone when he gets wind of it and says, yeah, you need to look into Maxwell. She's the main culprit or whatever. I think the only reason, since, Maria Farmer went to the FBI in 96, okay, about a decade before 2006, and nothing. Girls had been going to the police. It's only when a billionaire called that they couldn't ignore it. And that was Trump. And man, you can hate Trump, and I do, for all his crap, allowing them to bomb Gaza and all the stupid stuff he's done. His Lincoln-like tariffs and threatening Iran and blowing up people in Yemen and kidnapping Maduro in Venezuela so Paul Singer can make billions of dollars on oil. And oil's now going to Israel for the first time since 2009 for Venezuela. But he did call and was the only one in that whole group to actually cooperate with police. Now, his incentive, however, is not because he has a moral, he's like just, it finds him repugnant that they would do this to kids. It's no, he's pissed off because Wexner and himself were in a real estate battle over property adjacent to Mar-a-Lago when this Jewish shyster named Abe Gossman, he was in like made old folks homes or something, and he did a bunch of he was in the red, and so he had to sell his property. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna grab this." His wife, by the way, Abe's dead. His wife is in trouble for mortgage fraud and tax evasion.
I'm shocked.
I don't really care about tax evasion because no one should pay taxes, but it's just like you had all this money. You just had to have more. They spent more. And anyway, Abe had to sell his properties. Trump ended up getting it, but it wasn't Trump's money. Trump was fronting for a Russian oligarch, and it wasn't Epstein's money either. He was fronting for Les Wexner. And the oligarch's deal was he was getting a divorce and he didn't want to lose all his stuff. So he's like, look, you buy this and then I'll buy it back. And that's what he did. He was just moving funds around so she couldn't get them. I respect that, I guess.
I can understand that a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, fine. But it's funny. And Trump's like, he's been through, I think he'd been on his second wife then. So he was whatever. But he gets about a $44 million windfall from that. Trump had done that before, not like that scale, but in Atlantic City, he had rented out the mobsters and stuff. And it's all in my newest 9/11 film. I got into that because I was going off on Bernard Kerik and Steve Witkoff, who's now very well known. Steve Witkoff's the negotiator on Iran and Ukraine, right?
Is it true? Let me ask you a question. There's been some allegations that whenever he gets sent somewhere, like if he gets sent to Ukraine, he stops off in Israel first, goes to Ukraine, then goes back to Israel, and then comes back to the United States. Is that true?
He did that at least once because his first trip to Ukraine, that's what he did. And Kushner too. So they get their orders. But it's funny that he didn't even know the names of the oblast. Like he couldn't even name like Luhansk and Donetsk. That's the Donbass. That started the whole thing. He didn't know because he's not
It's
serious
business.
about it.
It's business. It's business.
He's just Trump's real estate friends, and they act like they're some geopolitical analyst. Like they're not statesmen. They sell properties and in a rigged way. You know, like he was a marble dealer. He's him and Simone Cohen were the conduit from Teen Wertheimer, that the at one point the richest man in Israel, who gave the police commissioner of New York $250,000, who then said he found a passport from a 9/11 hijacker because what are the odds? It's not impossible, but it's pretty damn improbable. Then they found another one. And oh, how about that? So that's exactly the story. He couldn't explain the terms of the loan or when he was supposed to pay it back or what it was for. Carrick was in Israel in August 26, 7, 8, 9. So, 9/11 is just weeks after that. What are you doing? Why is the police commissioner of New York kissing the wall in Israel? For what? And then he gets all this money. He got another $250,000 from the Gambino crime syndicate. So he has $500,000 basically for two Jewish groups, because that's what that is. It's no longer Italian. That he couldn't explain. He ended up going to jail. And it's like no one followed up on this. So anyway, that's all in my 9/11 film, but it overlaps with just Trump and his cronies and stuff he was doing. He was in Epstein's circle for a long time. He knew him. There's no way he didn't know what he was and what he did. He just didn't want him poaching girls off his own property. He's like, hey, those are my employees' daughters. Like, can you not go to the spa on Mar-a-Lago? Can you go anywhere else? Epstein was never a member, never really went there anyway. He sent Ghislaine or one of his lackeys to go recruit girls, Leslie Groff or any of his desk girls, and like Sarah Kellen. She's walking around free. I think she married a race car driver or something. Like, she should be in jail. She should be subpoenaed. Does Massey know this? Does he know who these people are? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. They're subpoenaed Wexner. That's good. And then they've subpoenaed the Clintons, and they're talking about Bill Gates. And I'm like, dude, go to my pin tweet and subpoena all the people I told you to subpoena. That's who knows everything. And they ought to threaten Maxwell, like, you're going back to Supermax unless you spill the beans. She's like, oh, I'll do it if Trump gives me clemency. Well, that's an obstruction of justice, because you're admitting you have knowledge, you're just not sharing it. Like, even if you plead the fifth, what you just said already incriminates you.
Well, let me ask you this. So a lot of people are trying to make this about Zionism and about Israel, and he had a wider influence where there were people that he was always in contact with, but the people inside, the Lex Wexners and those people, the people who were closest to him, was it all about Israel, or was all of this blackmail, was all of this, enjoying, I hate to say the word enjoying, but partaking in underage sex and all this about Israel, or was this something else? Because people are,
I don't think the Israelis wanted them banging kids. Not that Israel cares. I mean, Israel's a safe haven for pedophiles. You can go rape the goy all you want and then go live in Israel. They don't have a problem with it as long as you don't rape Jews. But they just, from like the Mossad would say, that's sloppy. Why do you can't leave flight logs? Why do you even have flight logs? Just fake them. Like, this is not an intelligence agent. He was an intelligence asset. As far as Wexner and all these goons, like, the Wexner Foundation was created by Haganah. It is literally the outgrowth of Israeli terrorist groups before there was in Israel. This Palmach and Halna and Bercha and Irgun and Stern and that becomes the IDF. The Jewish Agency becomes the first state of Israel. And Rabbi Herbert Friedman, the first president of the Wexner Foundation, diehard Zionist, right out of the people that were stealing weapons and uranium, same guy, came right out of the UJA from Hillel Silver and Ted Kollek and Ben Gurion, and Ben Gurion actually becomes the first prime minister. Like, these are the guys. Wexner's 88 years old. He was kind of young, like, then, for that first generation of this shit. And Wexner comes in late 80s, early 90s with Doug Leese, and Ari Ben Menashe said this. I mean, he was an intelligence officer, not for Mossad, but for, I think, defense intelligence in Israel. And they tried the gray market weapon sales and stuff, and he wasn't good at it. And they're like, his proclivity was in, sick sexual shit. So Ace Greenberg has him go to Bear Stearns and do the everything job, which is just networking, getting to know everyone and inviting them and compromising them. That's the whole point. But the compromise is not a do it or else blackmail. It's more like price of entry, like insurance. You're going to do this with us, so we know you'll never leave. As long as you're doing this, then we know we can work with you. And a lot of them are like, sure, because they like fucking kids, or in many cases, young women. They're not all pedophiles. Some of them just fucking hookers, like hookers because they're persuaded, but whatever. And guess what? There were real hookers too. Some of these victims are not victims. They were whores that did it for the money and regretted it later. Well, no one held a gun to your head. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there are definitely many who were just girls, not even women, who got groomed, or a lot of them, it happened to them once and they left in tears. They didn't keep going back. But the ones that got the big payouts are the ones that went back again and again and again and again. And that there's just something wrong about that. Like, the girls that did the right thing, that ran home and told their parents right away, got almost no or sometimes zero payout, because it less happened to him. He just did indecent exposure, flipped over with his dick on the massage table, and you ran away, but you didn't actually get raped. So you get less money. Like, there's something wrong. And you got to explain, when these girls are telling their moms and dads and they're going to the police, why they didn't act. But then you can see that Epstein was paying the Palm Beach Police Department through his LLC hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so they all look the other way. Even the honest cops, which is almost an oxymoron, but they do exist, would try to go to the property and get a warrant. Every time they did, the computers were gone, everything. They'd have been tipped off because somebody else in the department said, "Hey, we're coming at this time on this day." Yeah, I remember an interview with a bodyguard of Epstein that was saying that, yeah, they just cleaned it all out. We'd always get tipped off. Like, they didn't worry about police. And this is why he got so John Gotti with it, raping multiple 14-year-olds. Ugh. Like, why would you do that? You have billions of dollars. You're involved in all the, you're representing the Rothschilds. You're pretty important. Why would you risk all of this for your little side operation of banging middle school and high school kids? Well, he's a pedophile, and that's what he wanted to do. And he felt untouchable. And he's like, well, they're not going to do anything. Clinton's FBI is not going to do anything. Clinton's with me. Like, he's in the hot tub with Glenn. Like, he felt untouchable. And of course he wasn't. But the thing is, when he went to jail, he did flee to Israel, and they told him to go back because the worst thing in the world happened. In getting prosecuted, he ended up with that sweetheart deal, which made all his co-conspirators immune, which I think is why you're seeing most of the punishment right now come down in the UK and Norway and Sweden, or anywhere other than America, because they didn't get that sweetheart deal. Totally different jurisdiction. I think Peter Mandelson's going down. I think he could go to jail. That Thorbjornson guy from Norway, they raided his properties today. The Sultan ABS, he's had to resign. There's like 12 others that had to resign. Larry Summers resigned. I guess that's a big deal. But the resignations are just phase one. Because as long as the public holds their feet to the fire and they don't drop this like goldfish, like they are in a lot of things, the subpoenas will come next. Les Wexner is supposed to show up on the 18th to Congress. That's going to be better than watching Pam Bondi yell about the Dow Jones. If you saw that, the Dow was like this.
That
We should be
was
talking
just
about this. Like, bitch, you are here to talk about Epstein. We're going to talk about Epstein. Nobody cares about the NASDAQ right now. They care about little girls getting raped.
it's like your wife finding out you cheated on her, and you go, babe, have you seen the bank account? The bank account is amazing right now.
Look at, we're selling stuff or whatever. Like, dude, it's worse than this. It's like not even like you cheated. It's like you cheated with a child, or something crazier. Like,
well,
like
let me bring this up because there's a certain email that I find very very interesting. I'll bring up Lutnick because, and the only reason I really care about Lutnick is because 3/4 of the time Trump speaks in public, Lutnick is over his shoulder.
He is the Anthony Blinken of this administration. They always got one in the shadows.
Yeah. So
his sister worked with Maxwell, by the way. It's not just Howard. It's all the Lutnicks.
So obviously what happened on 9/11, maybe you can speak to that, but it's a very weird email in which he says he's stopping by the island. Of course, this is after he has said publicly that he's denounced Jeffrey Epstein as we knew he was a creep kind of thing. But he says we have 8 kids with us, and he lists the name of the ages of.
He only has 4 kids.
Yeah, was that weird? Is weird to you? Had you seen that before?
Yeah, he lists their ages, and one of them was 7. He's like 2 16-year-olds, 2 14-year-olds, and a 7-year-old at the end. Whose kid? You don't have 8 kids. He's coming there with his wife and kids, and he lists the names of 8 children, and one of them 7. And you're like, what are you doing? There's only one reason to meet in person on the island. That's pretty far out of the way. It's near St. Thomas. You got to go there and then take a helicopter from St. Thomas to the little St. Jeffrey's. I guess you could rent a boat or whatever, but that's, it's not like going to New York or some place where you have other things to do. Even Palm Beach, New Mexico, you're near other things. There's no reason to go to an island with a bunch of kids, especially not your kids, which they could not be because he does not have 8 kids. And why are you listing their ages? Why does he need to know that? Just say it's from 16 to 7 or nothing at all even. He was letting them know what goods he was bringing. Here's my harem.
He could have said they're all under 18 as like a warning. I don't want them to see anything, hide anything so they don't see them. No, he lists every single one of their ages. That is, what do you think about his
stepchildren or something that I don't know about? Like he doesn't have, he has 4 children. As far as I know, where is he getting 8 from?
What do you think? What do you think about
214? Do you have twins twice? Like, you know what I mean? Probably not.
What do you think about his 9/11 story?
His brother died in the World Trade Center. I believe he probably didn't go to work because he probably never goes to work. A lot of these bosses, they're not 9-to-5ers. They don't have to go in an office and sit there and whatever. They work from home and they order people around. So it's not that shocking. He wants to make it into a story like I was about to go into work and I just didn't. Like, you weren't going to work. You never work. You'd think he'd tip off his own brother if he had foreknowledge, like, hey, don't go tomorrow, unless he hated him or something. But it's speculation, and it's not. I don't need it because the guy's a piece of shit. Without that, he supported every war ever. He supported the genocide in Gaza. He's like totally irredeemable on every issue. And the fact that he's bringing kids to Epstein in line and say he had males with Epstein as recently as 2018. And maybe 2019 we haven't found yet. But at least so way after when he said he cut off ties. There's no explanation for those kids, and he did not have a bunch of twins. You know what they were doing with those children.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, a 7-year-old. I wanted to hope that maybe 4 of them are his kids. The other 4 aren't. I'm like, no, he didn't do that. He just, he's a billionaire too. And, he's behind, they got him. He's like monitoring Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Epstein's theory is Trump had Epstein killed at MCC. Somebody had him killed. But he's like, they nearly shot Trump's head off. He grabs his ankles for Israel worse than anybody ever other than LBJ, because you can't get more Zionist than Lyndon Johnson. But, Trump's number 2. He cleared past everybody. He'll do whatever they want. He bombed Iran. He just let them, and Genocide Joe let them bomb Gaza too. I mean, I don't think Joe Biden knew where he was, though. But that's the thing. It's like, I guess all of them would have done it. I don't think Reagan would have. And Kennedy wouldn't have. But the rest of them, yeah. But they would
Carter
have
wouldn't.
some rules.
Carter would.
Yeah,
I mean,
Carter wouldn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, he hated them.
Yeah, well, yeah. And he woke up a lot after he was no longer president, because he went over and visited Israel and he realized, he wrote that great book, Peace, Not Apartheid. And, they yelled and called him anti-Semitic and stuff. And it was Deborah Leichner, the same lawyer that represented the dancing Israelis, that was all after Carter. And they never served papers to either group because they weren't serious about any of it. God, these people, like, every crime I investigate, I have this thing called Dead Pigeon, or this thing, the bell. I'm like, let's see who's involved in organ trafficking. Oh, damn it. Again, let's see who's doing, a safe haven for pedophilia, prison rape, where the majority of the population agrees that you should be allowed to rape prisoners. Like, at least with, like we had last week, the big story was ICE shot 3 people, 2 dead, whatever. But at least half the country was like, fuck that. You can't just shoot people. Or at least there was some argument. Well, you can if, maybe she was going to hit him with a car. Like, if you really believe that, I don't. But if you did, like, you have an argument. Like, well, you can shoot him if they're doing. But nobody would say you could just walk up and shoot someone. Like, all Americans would agree. Of course you can't do that. But in Israel, oh, you're going to kill someone? Are they a goy? Then they don't matter. You can kill Palestinians. You can blow up a hospital full of people. Doesn't matter. Right? At least in America, as bad as Americans are about a lot of things, there's a line. There's a moral line. Like, you can't just blow up children. You can't just rape. But Israelis don't think like that. Like, of course you can kill children. They're Amalek. They're goy. And that's how Epstein and a lot of his friends thought. They don't look at you as real human beings. They have a higher soul. Did you see that discussion?
Yeah.
The Jewish soul is made of something higher and more pure. I think it was Fisher talking to him. This is what they think. And like, yeah, it's Israeli. Like Wexner and all these people, like, they're more Zionist than Epstein. Leon Black is a super Zionist. Alan Dershowitz is a super Zionist. Everybody around him, his lawyers, his financiers, like his whole backbone, the Maxwells, they worked for Israel. Maxwell, her sisters, her father, like, they all are assets for Israel. And the media's like, maybe it's Russia.
Yeah, one of the things that's really like that came out with like that Carrie Prejean Bowler thing is that they've all of a sudden turned Zionism into pro-Israel. Zionism is not about pro-Israel. Zionism is a mentality. Zionism is a belief system. And if these files prove anything, for those of us who've spent any time around Jews, you know that they are supremacists. They believe that even if they're not willing to come out and say it explicitly, little things will come out and leak, and you'll be like, "Oh, okay, I just heard what you said," because they always do. They always say something like that. They always give it away.
Walk around with that lens where you're just constantly filtering stuff like Jew and Gentile. Those are concepts they made up in Judaism. Everyone else is just people, but they're like, no, there's the Jews and the non-Jews. It's a self-alienating religion because you were just like assigned everyone outside your supposed bloodline of Jacob an inferior status to yourself.
Ever since this came out, you're seeing a lot of people, especially the the people that will not let go of MAGA. This doesn't mean anything. This doesn't, this is a distraction. This is all to take down Trump. Because the left is talking about this to take down Trump. If you're talking about this to take down Trump, that means you're a leftist. You're with the Democrats. You're with the New Deal regime.
What Bill Clinton's in the files, Reid Hoffman's in the files, Larry Summers, like huge Democrats are in the files. Their name is mud. This is not a partisan thing.
That's
Trump
what they don't get, because everything's partisan nowadays.
Cops, at least he can say, yeah, I'm the rat. But it's interesting that Trump was afraid for people to know that he was the rat. He should have been bragging. Yeah, I called in 06 and said, get him. But he didn't do that. And he's the fucking president. Who is he scared of?
Yeah.
Huh? Why wouldn't he come out with that story right away? That had to come out in the file. Now, I have said that story. I told Sean Atwood that when we were discussing Michael Wolff. I think Michael Wolff is a lying sack of crap.
Oh, he's a disgusting human being.
He's just a disgusting fucking. They lie like fish swim. That's how these authors and lawyer types are. But I will rip on Trump. I made a film, as you know, Trump's Sinus Ball and Chain. I've criticized him on all the dumb shit he's done. But you can have a nuanced take and say, at least he did this one thing right. For whatever his motives were, he was the only guy in that circle to tell the police, yeah, he's so awful, and Maxwell is right there with them. And then in public, he's like, oh, I wish her well, da, da, da. I'm like, well, that's not how you were talking to the police. So what's going on? He's afraid of the donor class because they'll destroy him, his kids, everything. And, his daughter is now officially Jewish. I guess she had a lost soul that found its way home or whatever. Ivanka.
Here's the thing is I catch a lot of shit for not being a plan truster. When Russiagate was going on, Horton and I were like podcasting every week about how Russiagate was total bullshit. Ukraine Gate, the same thing. Whenever they went after Trump, like in the first term, for something that was complete bullshit, I would be there just going, no, this is complete bullshit. When he fucking bombed Syria.
Bullshit. When they said it was kind of part of Russiagate is when they said Hunter's laptop was a Russian hoax. That's not true. His laptop is 100% real. Yeah. But isn't it interesting? They got 50 or 51 intelligence officers to all say it was fake. And that worked because it was Jack Dorsey's Twitter and he banned you if you said otherwise. And that went all the way into the debate where they're like, there's no Hunter laptop. And yes, there was. It was all over the Chinese internet. It was like, it's Hunter with drugs and hookers and all the rest of it. And the real Russiagate, like with Antolia Golubchik and all that, that never, they don't touch on it even now. It was just this Steele dossier crap. And it's him again, by the way, talking about Epstein possibly being a Russian agent. And it was sad to see like Nigel Farage, Reform Party, pushing that BS. I was like, he had a hard time getting a visa to even get in Russia. He finally went to St. Petersburg with Maxwell and took some pictures in their stupid hats and stuff. These were criminals. But yeah, he wasn't working for Israel directly like a Mossad agent. He was an asset that they use. You got to understand, states aren't the top of the mountain. This billionaire donor class, the deep state or whatever some people say, that's who runs the world. These billionaires, the shadow oligarchs, or whatever you want to say. States, heads of state are interchangeable. They come, they go in most places. But the donors are the donors. Lots of people have taken money from the Adelsons. Lots of people have taken money from Singer. Lots of people, these same groups donate. They used to donate through AIPAC. Now they use UDP and a bunch of other affiliates. Best guy on that, Grant F. Smith, Big Israel, by the way. Better than me, I think. and they just purchase your leadership. And you look at Epstein, who again is a front because Wexner's not going to get his fingers dirty. And he had them all. He had the highest level in the UK and the United States. And he speaks English, so those are his targets. And it makes you wonder about some of the other places. I'd like the Jean-Luc Brunel file because I think he did way more than Epstein on the, I don't know what to call it, sexual escapades or whatever. Like that guy, 60 Minutes had hit him in the 80s. He was known. Him and Claude Haddad, fashion industry mogul. Brunel used to drug women. Like what they accused Bill Cosby of doing, Jean-Luc Brunel actually did. He'd rape him right there in the limousine. He couldn't even get him to the hotel. Guy was disgusting. Of course, he's best friends with Epstein. But he didn't start in France. Do you know what MC2 used to be called? It was called Karen Models. You know where it started?
Nope.
Tel Aviv.
All roads lead to Tel Aviv. Isn't that what
Brunel
it was?
Not even his real name.
What wasn't that wasn't that a back and forth between Bannon? Bannon said all roads lead to Beijing, and Epstein comes back. How about maybe Tel Aviv?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny every time someone dies or is suicided, he says, "Whoops." Have you seen that? Blah blah blah. Oops or whoops. Yeah. Sometimes it's oops. It's mostly whoops. He knows it's Tel Aviv. He even said to Ehud Barak, like, "Oh, maybe you should tell him I'm not Mossad." Smiley face. They just never thought all these emails would ever come out the way they have and be on a DOJ website. Like, no way. And they're really not all out. I mean, there's another 3 million files that are not out. And this is mostly internal communications and accusations. You're not going over the court files that really dug through and listened to victims and getting testimonies. That's what you want. And they have not given us that. Now I'll tell your whole audience this. You can get the files from 05. You can get, like Virgin Islands versus JP Morgan and all these things. There have already been lawsuits where they had to pay out hundreds of millions of dollars to hundreds of victims for commercial sex purposes. That means they were pimped out, and it was not only Epstein was not the only client, obviously. Jess Staley's already admitted he was. He's the one that said he came in Snow White 2 times as soon as she put the costume on. Ugh. But they had to pay out, and you can read these files, and it's all Jane Doe, Mary Doe. They won't get the names, but there's hundreds of them. And it's not like JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank don't have fancy lawyers and all that, and they still had to pay out there just for facilitating all the hush money that Darren Endike and Richard Kahn were paying these girls off to shut the fuck up. Everybody needs to bow to Denise George from Virgin Islands. She was attorney general, got fired over it. But because Epstein had several governors in a row in his pocket, he paid the first lady $200,000 a year to work for him. That's a way of bribing the governor without giving any money to the governor. You give it to his wife. Lame. He was getting a 90% tax rebate. So he had his little companies and LLCs down there and his limiteds, and he was moving around other people's money. It's just, you're never going to get to the bottom of it. Like, I don't think I could explain it. I've had to sit here for like 10 hours and just say, then they did this and then they did that. Because I've been looking at this since 07. And I've been listening to victims. I've been listening to disgruntled employees. And he had that. And they came out. And it's not just the pilots. It was his chefs, his like butlers, maids, chauffeurs, bodyguards. They all been spilling the beans for a long time. And I don't know. It's just, it didn't get any attention until they tried to pin it all on Trump and say, well, the labor secretary Acosta, blah, blah, blah. Like, it didn't matter. And it's kind of like what I was mentioning to you before with Robert Miller and Mike Jeffries and Peter Nygaard and even Robert Kraft and these other incidences. They don't even get one day of news. Only Epstein resonated. And it's only because they thought they could hang Trump with it. And they hate Trump so much because he's the one that originally told on Epstein. Now, there's plenty of other reasons to hate him, but that's not why they hate him.
So if a lot of these figures have already been given immunity, I mean, what becomes of this? I mean, the public having information, the great noticing that's happened since October 7th is, I think that helps to, if you know the history of noticing, especially like in the Soviet Union, you realize the quote unquote peasants always are part of it. They're always like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? Who are these people?
Too.
Yeah, they're always last. But
when they're the most deadly.
Yeah, but when they find out, things can actually change. Things can actually be implemented. But they've built a system now that insulates them so much from being prosecuted, being harmed at all. I mean, what comes of this, man? Even if the other 3 million,
right? Well, what comes of it is those who didn't get the deal do seem to be paying consequences already. They're having their properties raided. They're resigning from everything. They're being chased out. In the court of public opinion, they're all done. I would say what everyone can do, and I'll help make a list, is right now we're going through the subpoena stage and they're going to get in more information. I'm going to eventually get hold of Massey and give him an earful, and then we're going to the moon. But something you can do now is boycott all their businesses. Don't ever buy from LL Brands, Victoria's Secret, Seagram's Liquor, like none. Don't ever give one ridge edge coin penny to, actually the penny didn't have ridges, it had Lincoln, but don't ever give them 1 cent to the Bronfmans, Wexner, Steinhardt, any of these groups. There's not much you can do for some of them. Like, well, Global Apollo, like, well, okay, it's not your hedge fund, so they don't care. But there are some of them that have actual products. Epstein joked about only the Goy deal in the real world. Most of these people are just speculators, and they just make money from having money. It's essentially glorified gambling. They produce nothing. They don't provide a service. They just leeches. But of the few there are, you got to boycott all their businesses. Don't ever buy a product from these people, ever. That's one thing everyone in the public can do, and make sure you're accurate. And don't just add companies at random because they have a Jewish CEO or something. Like, they have to be involved in this. And I will make a list of what to avoid. Don't ever buy these things. That's one thing. 2, you cannot let this drop. No one cares about the Dow or the NASDAQ or whatever. Even if they go to war with Iran, you can never let them get away with Jeffrey Epstein. People want indictments. They want arrests. They want people going to jail. And the fact that Lucknick and them, they're not going to retire. They're like, yeah, I brought kids to the islands. So what? It's not a crime because you can't prove what we did with them. I mean, that's how they think. Part of me is like vigilante justice, man, but I can't advocate that because that would be illegal. But I think the subpoenas will create, it's hard to believe, but it's going to create even more fire under this. When Wexner, if he doesn't go and go, oh, I'm old, my medical, if he actually starts talking on the 18th, so many people are going down. And, the DOJ, you need to work with them. I think you got to get rid of Patel and Bondi and like all these people that you guys, I know that you're going to go retire and end up with a bunch of money from the donor class who you're protecting, but Just put Matt Gaetz in there, whatever. Put someone in there that will prosecute these people. Because they're getting asked. They're going to say, okay, you found this out. You read what I read. Did you investigate that person? Because we know they weren't arrested or anything. Are you investigating? What was your explanation when they said blah, 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 blah? I love the torture video. Da, 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 da. What is that? How come you knew this and you redacted the name? Why are you redacting the names of the perpetrators at all? And you have. And this has been like pulling teeth, because if you remember, the first thing they did is Bindergate. Those stupid Zionist kids with their white binders. That was a total nothing burger. Because I think what Trump tried to do is to throw a bone to his base and say, well, yeah, we're going to get the files, JFK, RFK, MLK, and Epstein through executive order, which meant I'm just going to have my little lackey Bondi go in there, censor everything that matters, and release some files that have already been released, but you won't know. They didn't anticipate this congressional order coming out and really ordering files. And they dragged their feet. They've had a long time to do paper shredding. And they're still coming out. And they did redact names, but it's like so overwhelming. They couldn't get them all. And so some people have been thrown under the bus, especially Bill Gates with his STD and his Russian girls and photographs of him with women. And he's done. Might be hard to boycott Microsoft if that's what you already have or whatever. Like, we've already paid for it. So losing it isn't going to hurt him. It's going to hurt you more. Just don't ever buy any more Microsoft. Like, don't ever get anything from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, like all that stuff. But I want people to understand how hedge funds work, how this billionaire class is manipulating government. Like, that ought to be the bigger story, but I don't think that's what's being learned. They're just like, who was raping the kids? Throw them in jail. Okay, well, yes, do that, but do you not see the greater picture here of these mega donors that own your heads of state? And a lot of them are involved in the AI, Peter Thiel and the rest of these fuckwits. If you let the ADL run AI, censorship's going to go into overdrive. Anyone that criticizes Israel is just going to be debanked. They're going to have what happened to me just happen to everybody. They're going to cancel all your social media, kick you off of every financial, like PayPal, Patreon. You won't have Stripe. You won't have anything. You have to move to Asia, to live. It's one of the last places left. You can't let that happen. We're headed down that road. They already bought TikTok, and what they do, they wiped out pro-Palestine accounts with millions of followers. Just, you're gone. Why? You criticize Israel. And getting away with it. And it's very blackpilling. I talked to Scott Horton, I like DMing, not talking. He's like, Israel's name is mud. I'll make you right. It is. But does that even matter to them? I mean, they just blew up hospitals in front of everyone. They're like, what are you going to do? They figured it out. They figured out we don't have to fear them. We can just kill Palestinians, 100,000, and it won't matter. You'll still send us money. The entire world.
And they just admitted that IDF just admitted that 83 to 85% of them were civilians, which means that it's probably 98 to 99% were civilians.
Oh yeah, it was, and it's way over 71,000. The few states that did something were Venezuela, Bolivia, Colombia. Venezuela had already been sanctioning Israel since 2009. And look what happened to them. 2 days ago, they started sending oil to Israel for the first time. That's what that was about. They're encircling Iran. They sent the Lincoln. I want them to name a torpedo the John Wilkes Booth, because that would be epic. Or however they sink that thing. They're sending the Ford. I'm like, we'll just call that Ford's Theater instead of the Gerald Ford.
God.
But like, I don't think they can pull that off. They had 6 carriers when they attacked Iraq. You're not going to invade Iran with 1. So I think it's just negotiation bullshit. But then again, this administration is so stupid that you can't really judge what's going to happen based on what makes sense, because they don't make sense. They absolutely could attack with only one carrier and lose. But yeah, they're that dumb. That's the problem. Like, are they stupid enough? Oh, wait, Hegseth? Yeah, they definitely are that stupid. So you don't know what's going to happen there. But what does it benefit the United States to have sanctions on Iran or threaten war with Iran? Nothing. It's Israel. And now you know why. Lutnick, like, he should be in jail. Whose kids are that? Like, they need to subpoena him. Explain this email. Who's the
No, man.
7-year-old? Like, these aren't yours. What were you talking about? What's he going to say?
No, it's way past that. I mean, when you're an occupied force, the only thing that you can hope for is that the occupiers, their kingdom, their empire falls apart, or something kinetic is going to happen. I'm not saying I want something kinetic to happen, but I mean, it almost seems like that's the only,
I'm
when
all
you
for
look at,
Southern justice and tar and feather and all that. Like, string them up. That's what we used to do. That's where they
yeah,
broke into prison and got Leo Frank and hanged him for raping girls. He raped a 13-year-old Mary Fagan, and apparently he had been finger banging with a bunch of his employees at his pencil factory. And when the public found that out, they broke into the jail because he was going to get commuted because B'nai B'rith was bribing the governor. They had a epic 19-mile-an-hour car chase. They brought him in the woods, and they hung him dead. That's what ought to happen to even if you're a billionaire, whatever. Like, if we know what you're doing to little girls and rape and theft and all that, you should just be killed. But we don't have a functional society anymore. It's so many people are placated by drugs and video games or whatever, that they can't even be bothered to pay attention to this stuff. I did see Epstein in Korea. It was on TV and they were explaining it. Japan's already mogging Pam Bondi like that quick. They made an anime just trashing her. And the world is looking and going, how come people in the UK are being arrested, Sweden, Norway, with the US, nothing's going on? I don't think they know about the deal and all that, but they're wondering about the US public. But what would you like them to do? We have proven cops will just shoot you. So, like, what would you like them to do? That's what I'm saying. At least at minimal, boycott all their stuff. And I'm not going to tell you the next thing you need to do. You need to figure that out. But step one is what I said. And of course, public pressure. You do have some perfectly legal avenues to try, which is, subpoena these people before Congress for the hearing and trying to get prosecutions. And at minimal, like, waking the public up to how the world actually works. Even if it actually almost be better if no one went to jail, because then everyone would give up on the whole system. Like, if you don't arrest anyone else, just Burnell, Epstein, and Maxwell, and you just let all these people get away with it, even the plebs, the hoi polloi, whatever you want to say, the couch potatoes, they're all going to realize the whole thing's rigged, and they're going to lose complete faith in the FBI and the courts and everything. Like, it doesn't matter. It's all rigged. And they're going to tap out. You're going to have a nihilistic society. Like I said, there's just rich people who just get to rape kids. They're just allowed to do that. Yeah. And that's definitely going to breed violence, because if you prevent all avenues of legitimate ways to deal with grievance and arbitrate disputes, what's going to happen? Shootings is what's going to happen. Or worse, no shootings. And we just let them rape our kids.
Tell everybody where they can find your work, Ron.
RyanDawson.org. Make sure you write org and not com. Or this blue square. anti-neocon. That's where the shop is, and you can get Epstein map. I even put it on a hoodie, put the client list on the back. Had that around before. I don't know if I have it. People seen it. I put the first page up. I put the whole list up on Substack the other day, ryandawson.org. It's like 3 or 4 posts ago. It says 130 names. I had to stop at 130 because I got tired of doing it. But they're all there and they're all in alphabetical order. And like, here's when George Carlin said it's a big club and you ain't in it. Here's the club. Here's all your Epstein clients and associates. It's really great that he got caught and any portion of this is coming out. Mm-hmm. But man, it's the tip of the iceberg.
Go over and subscribe to Ryan's Substack. I think I was one of the first paid subscribers ever, and I think
you were definitely in that first wave. Yeah, like first one.
Yes.
We were one of the first people on Substack, and it's because I'd been banned on everything else. You know, you can get this too. I think you have this maybe, but the Boycott Israel coffee. It's regular coffee. I mean, it's decent coffee, but the package it says this on the other side too. End all aid to Israel.
It's awesome, man.
It's just good to get up in the morning if you're a coffee person. Like the first thing you see is Boycott Israel. Oh yeah, it makes you feel good.
Well, I mean, I have certain pictures around my house that remind me pictures of people who have pushed back against these monsters over the years. So as I walk through my house, I'm reminded.
Right on.
Take care, man. Thank you. Appreciate you.
110%. Right. We got to give it 110.
Take care, brother. Bye.
Take care. Bye.